So did you hear anything interesting on the internet today? Yeah, today was the day that we got that. That is the Nintendo Direct, all about the Nintendo Switch 2. And people have some pretty hot takes and some thoughts on it. And I've got a whole lot of notes here that I figured we talked about a little bit on our Nintendo Direct short today. But I wanted to kind of go through all of this and kind of give you my thoughts on the system, the reveal, the controversy, what I liked, what I didn't like, what could be improved, and what I thought they got right. So first and foremost, we got to talk about Mario Kart World. I mean, this thing looks so much fun. I cannot wait to play this game. Graphically, it looks like it is a wonderful update from the last version that we got, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. You have more karts on track than any one time. Here's the really cool thing that they came out and said is not only do you race the race, but you also go ahead and you race from track to track. So if you go ahead and you complete a race, you then race to the next track, which is something, it's different for the series. There's also 3 different play modes, and I think this is a great game for them to launch the system with. The fact that we are not getting a traditional Mario or Zelda game at launch, this is definitely something that I think it's a good move for them. I think it's something that you're going to get people who loved the Switch that will move and transition to the Switch 2. Now, after the reveal of Mario Kart World, which is what the new system is being called, or the new game is being called, they did go through and talk about some of the new features on the system. One of the biggest features on the Joy-Con 2 is this new C button, which basically is going to allow you to do something that gamers were able to do back in 2008 or 2009. That's right, voice chat is coming to the Nintendo Switch, but in only the way that Nintendo can do it. They're calling it the Game Chat. Now, with this setup, the system itself has a built-in microphone on the main body of the unit. You can also go ahead and you can screen share and you can chat while playing different games. You don't all have to be playing the same game to be able to chat. You can chat between 4 different players at one time. You can also share your screen from one person to another. And then one of the more interesting things that they added into this is the fact that, and this to me felt very much like the Xbox 360 Kinect. There's a built-in camera, and it looks terrible. I think the resolution on this camera is absolute garbage, at least from what we saw in this video here. But it does allow you to go ahead and communicate with your friends that you're playing online with. I do like the fact that you don't have to necessarily all be playing the same game, and they did demo that in here. But I do also like the fact that if you are playing a game and you're struggling with someone, you can actually screen share and walk them through essentially something that may help them enjoy the game even more or get past to a different level on the game than where they may have been. You can also go ahead, and here's the screen sharing right here. Looking at the frame rate down below, man, that looked like a very slow frame rate as the other people were playing. Now, I get it. They're transferring a lot of data back and forth, and you can only do so much here. But if it's going to happen, if it's going to be on there, it's got to work. And this, to me, it didn't look like it worked very well. At least that's my opinion. That could be beta software. It could be alpha software for all we know. But it's one of those things that I didn't think the screen sharing feature at the bottom of the screen that you see here, I don't think the screen resolution, it wasn't even resolution, it was frame rate. The frame rate was so super choppy on here. Now, as kind of a bummer, you do have to be a Nintendo Switch Online member to go ahead and utilize this game chat feature. But one of the nice things is they are giving it to everybody free until March the 31st, 2026. So that is something that it is a nice feature that they're not forcing your hand entirely. It's the drug dealer concept. The first hit is free, and then you're going to pay. It's an interesting concept. I don't enjoy playing online myself, and maybe this will be different because, and they didn't say if you're going to have friend codes still, I'm assuming you will, but instead of having everybody in the world that you're talking to, it's going to be your friends. So hopefully it's one of those. I just don't want to deal with a 15-year-old punk who's talking smack while we're playing Mario Kart and he's getting his rear end waxed and he's going to talk garbage. the camera is interesting, and it's one of the cool things too about the fact that it does have that second USB-C port on the top of the system that you can plug right into your Nintendo Switch and easily go ahead and be able to access it. It does look like it's USB-C, so theoretically it should have faster data transfer rates versus the USB-A ports that are on the side of the system, which we will talk about a little bit later. I want to know, or at least I'm going to test, if other cameras will work with this above and beyond just the Nintendo Switch 2 camera. If it does, I've got a boatload of cameras. I mean, I've got one there. I've got my DSLR here. I've got the camera I'm filming on. I've got cameras. If I can utilize what I already got, sign me up. They then went ahead and talked about game sharing, and that's one of the neat features that I'm really excited about, and something I wish that we would have been able to do with the original Switch, because if I have a single copy of a game like Splatoon here, and if I want to play with my kids, I've got to have a copy of that game for each and every one of them. That sucks. Mario Kart. If I want to play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, every one of us has to have a copy of the game. That sucks unless we're going to do split screen. So the game sharing side of this definitely is something that I'm looking forward to, that I think it's a long time coming. The fact that you're on a local network having to do it, I'm just fine with that. I kind of wish that you could do it amongst, like, you can share your Nintendo Switch Online account with multiple people. My oldest daughter lives 3.5 hours away. I would love to be able to buy one game and have us both be able to enjoy it to play online. I understand if you do that, Nintendo makes less money. If we learned anything about this Direct, Nintendo likes themselves a whole lot of money. Next, they went in and talked about some of the differences between the original Switch and the Switch 2. It is a 7.9 versus a 6.2 inch display. It is the same thickness, though, which is impressive, so that's cool. It is an HD 1080p display versus 720p on the original Nintendo Switch. 120 frame rate, which is nice that we'll be able to have in handheld mode. Now you do have to back it down to 720p to go ahead and do that, which is a bit disingenuous right there. It's 720p, 120 frames per second, but at that screen size, it'll still look pretty decent. And the LCD display, it's not OLED, it's LCD. It does support HDR. Games got to support it, of course, but that is something that I did like seeing. Now, the buttons we saw on the back of the Joy-Cons in the early leaks that we thought was another button, that's your release button to release the Joy-Con 2 from the system itself. I know a lot of us, myself included, was hoping there was another back button. It's not. You do have metal and larger SL and SR buttons, so they're more usable. Otherwise, the original ones were kind of crappy. It does have a new kickstand. I'm not a big fan of this, but I mean, it's just something they added to it. They did not say Hall effect sensor on the Joy-Con 2, but it does have mouse effects or mouse controls, basically depending on what game you're playing. So that is something of note here too. Above and beyond that, it does have that top USB-C port, like I mentioned, that will allow you to go ahead not only to use the camera with it while you're playing, but also it's one of those that you can also play in tabletop mode and charge and not have to figure out how the hell am I going to sit this on the table and play in tabletop mode. It gives you access to an easy charge port and overall is pretty convenient to use. Now, looking at the microphone itself, it does have 3D audio and noise cancellation built noise canceling. Yeah, that's what it is. Noise canceling built into the microphone, so you should get clear audio regardless of what's being said. Distance, they say that you can have it set by your TV, you're sitting back, and it's still going to pick you up just fine. So I am really interested to see what happens there. And like I say, this stand, I much more prefer the stand that came on the Switch OLED. That whole back of the Switch was a lot better. It does have the two USB ports, and they did not cover it here, but the dock itself has basically your power for USB-C or USB-C for power, your HDMI out, and it does have a network port inside of the dock, which we'll show you here in a second, and it has two USB-A ports on the side. They just glanced over that. They really did not talk about that. This is one of the things that pisses me off. Only 256 gigabytes of data. versus the original was only $32.64 on the OLED. I love how everything that they're doing here is comparing the Switch 2 to the original. The OLED is a thing, and it does exist. Now, the new dock, 4K support, and we're going to pause or go back just a bit. Well, here we'll pause. So pausing here, you can see you have on the top, you have your USB-C for power. There's your HDMI, and it does have an Ethernet port, so you can hardwire it for your internet connectivity. And if you take a look here, the two USB-A ports on the side. They just glanced over that. They didn't talk about the dock really at all, except for the fact it does have a built-in fan, so it should help the system run cooler, run more efficiently, which is a good thing. I mean, these are all great things that they've added to it. I don't know why they didn't hit on that at all. Another thing they didn't really talk about a whole lot is the fact that, you know, we assumed when this was originally kind of revealed that the only games that wouldn't maybe work with it was like 1-2 switch or something like that that needed the camera on. They did not talk about if there was a camera on the bottom of the Joy-Cons or not. I don't think that there is. So if, you know, 1-2 switch, probably a game that wouldn't work. But the indication is that there are other games beyond this that will not work with the Switch 2, which sucks. It really sucks. I mean, I kind of assume that except for that capability needing to be there, it would just work with everything else, and it just does not do so. That's a disappointment. Now, they did debut this here. This is the Welcome Tour, or the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. It's essentially a tech demo of what the Nintendo Switch 2 can do. The differences on this system versus others reminds me quite a bit of Astrobot or Astro's Playroom, and I am not the first one to say this. Tom over at Do You Nerd also mentioned this. And it's kind of neat because it walks you through the different features of the system in a fun, laid-back, chill sort of way. It's a tech demo, right? They're charging you for it. This is not a pack-in. This is not free. You have to pay to play the tech demo. That is a bunch of garbage. I don't care even if it's $10. It's a tech demo to show you how to use the system. No, 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 no. Not cool of them to do that at all. And here you can see it'll be available on the same day as the Nintendo Switch 2 as a paid digital-only game. So they're not even going to do a physical release on that, which really is something like, why? Why? You're going to make a ton of money on the system anyways. Can you not put that in as a pack-in? Like, no, that's not acceptable. I hate when I hear people say companies are greedy. That's a greedy move, in my opinion. It is not consumer-focused or consumer-friendly. The next thing, same type of thing. They did debut an all-new cartridge, and they're calling it the Game Cart. It's red instead of gray. It looks like it's the exact same dimensions. But one major difference on this versus what we got on the Nintendo Switch is the fact that the entire game, not on there. Also, you need to use microSD express cards if you do want to go ahead and add more storage to the system. So you have to buy a system with minimal storage, 256 gigs, not nearly enough for a digital-only sort of system. The cartridges are basically unlock keys, which I hate when companies do that. I realize that it's expensive to make everything on the cartridge, but when you see the price of the cartridges, what the hell am I paying for? No. Now, they did indicate that you can transfer data from your original Switch or Switch OLED to your Switch 2. It'll probably be pretty similar to like if you had a Switch and went to a Switch OLED. One of the things I'm wondering is if you'll be able to transfer Animal Crossing. There is an all-new Switch 2 Pro controller. It does add the C button, also has back buttons on it, and a headphone jack, so you can go ahead and use headsets to be able to communicate with the game chat sort of features. So it looks to be about the same ergonomics, and I've seen pricing about $80 for this. Not astronomical, but you're still looking $20 to $30 more than the Switch 2. And Now, it did take almost 22 minutes into the Direct here for us to get the release date. It is coming out June 5th, 2025, but they never indicated when you can pre-order. We did get that information from a couple other websites. Pre-orders are going to open in a week on April the 9th, and they are locking it down so that scalpers don't get a hold of them like in the past. You've got to register through whatever site. I registered through Nintendo.com. I'm going to still try to get one through Target or Best Buy or Amazon. Now, they did talk about how they are going to have Nintendo Switch 2 enhanced games, and it's one of those things where you'll have your Switch 2 games, the ones that are just for the Nintendo Switch 2 that can't play on anything else. You're going to have your original Nintendo Switch games that you'll be able to play, and not all of them are going to be compatible. And then they are doing Nintendo Switch 2 editions of Nintendo Switch games. So what does that mean? That means games like Mario Party Jamboree, you're going to get a whole new sort of gameplay. There's Mario Party Jamboree and Jamboree TV that uses both the system's enhancements with the better graphics and everything, along with the digital camera. So you can actually put yourself in the game for a party-style game. To me, that's the ideal sort of use for something like this. Now, there is no indication what the cost of this is, though. Is it $10? Should be free on a lot of Xbox and PlayStation games. Did it go from PS4 to PS5? It was free. For Xbox One to Xbox Series, it was free on a lot of games. So at least at launch, I'm hoping that price is low. They did also announce a new edition of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and I will admit, I am not a fan of either of those games. I haven't even played Tears of the Kingdom. I hated Breath of the Wild so much. They're beautiful looking games. I can't argue that. So to be able to see Breath of the Wild in 4K running 60 FPS steady or 1080p running at 120 hertz, that's going to be awesome. As is the Zelda Notes. So Nintendo is updating their app, and you will be able to access notes and tips and tricks and things like that through the Nintendo Switch app. They're renaming it and everything as well. Here you can see how it will help you as you are actually going through and playing the game. I think that's a benefit to that service and that application that they have not leveraged and is really unique compared to what PlayStation does with their app and Xbox does with theirs. It's a really nice addition and add-on where you can share things using QR codes if someone's needing help. It will give you directions where you need to go, how you can build different parts, how you can, craft different items in here. So I think this is really sort of a neat addition to the overall service. Another game getting the Switch 2 enhancement is one that I think is one of the most beautiful games to be released recently on the Nintendo Switch, and that's Kirby and the Forgotten Land. This is a fantastic game, and it looks great and it plays great, and they're going ahead not only enhancing it for the Switch 2 graphically, but they're also adding extra content. That's the thing. Don't just make it a prettier version of what I already have. I don't need that. That's what I've got my RetroTank 5X for. That does that just fine for me. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, not RetroTank 5X, RetroTank 4K. But, give me additional content, kind of like what we got with Bowser's Fury in Super Mario 3D Land. You got an additional game, essentially, or a mini game, really, when you purchase that deluxe version of that game. And for me, that's extra value. That warrants something additional. $30 additional? No. $60 additional? No. $10 or $20? Maybe, depending on the depth and breadth of the content that you are adding to it. And for me, that's something I really like. It adds value and makes me feel like I'm not getting ripped off. Now, in addition, they did also confirm the fact that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond will have a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. Now, it didn't say any additional features or anything like that, any additional gameplay. They did confirm that you can use the mouse mode while playing Metroid Prime 4, which could be interesting. They also confirmed some quality modes on here too, so you can get 4K 60 FPS HDR or 1080p 120 FPS HDR in dock mode, or you can get 720p 100 FPS in handheld mode. I think that's one of those things that is an additional feature and benefit where you can tune to what you want to see, how you want to play. And I think the game itself looks really good. I'm not even through my first page of notes here. Holy cow. But in addition to this, so we got Metroid Prime 4. Pokemon Legends will get a Switch 2 edition. Drag and Drive. Don't remember what that was, but that was another game. We also got game listing. I mean, we got so many games that we are going to be able to look forward to. Elden Ring is coming to the Switch 2. Hades 2, Street Fighter 6, and the cool thing about Street Fighter 6, you'll be able to go ahead and wirelessly play against a friend if they have a system nearby. That is absolutely awesome. I love to see that. That's the type of enhancement. And there are going to be new amiibos coming that will be available on the Switch 2. This was really the only mention whatsoever of amiibo with the Switch 2. We are going to get a Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion edition. From the creator of It Takes Two, we got Split Fiction, and I have to say, I thought this looked like garbage. I mean, this didn't even look PS3 quality made. This did not look good at all. One of the things that I thought was absolutely huge, we are getting a new system added to the Nintendo Switch 2 plus expansion pack. That's right, the Nintendo GameCube is coming to the Switch 2, which is absolutely phenomenal. And not only that, we are getting a new GameCube style wireless controller. That's one of those things that with like Blue Retro adapters, we'll be able to use that on other systems, and I think people are going to be very happy about that. Now, out of the gate, we're going to get Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2, F-Zero GX, and I mean, these all look great. I'm not a personal fan of Wind Waker, but I know people love this game. I want them 100%. I want my Rogue Squadron. I know it's a licensed game. I know it's something that probably ain't going to happen, but that game holds up even to this day. It is perhaps one of the greatest Star Wars games ever released, and it needs to be there. It's on the GameCube, and looking at what they're doing here with Soul Calibur, with F-Zero GX, I mean, looks absolutely wonderful. And this isn't a one and done. Look at the games they're planning on bringing to the service, too. I mean, Chibi Chibi Robo, that thing is stupid expensive. Luigi's Mansion, and the GameCube will only be available through the Switch 2, and that will be added to the Nintendo Switch Online service the same day that the Switch 2 launches. Same thing with the GameCube style controller that you can see right here, that they went with the traditional GameCube style versus doing the Wavebird. It does have a dedicated C button, but for me, more importantly, up above that, it has a home button. So that is something that the other Nintendo Switch Online controllers were lacking, and I noticed, and I hated it. And it's something I'm glad to see here. And I'm also glad to see a return of a longtime developer to the Nintendo family of consoles. EA Sports is coming back to Nintendo consoles in a big way, not just with EA Sports FC, but we are also finally getting a Madden game on a Nintendo console. It has been 12 years, 14 years. I believe Madden NFL 13 on the Wii U was the last time that we got a Madden game on a Nintendo console. It is overdue. Welcome back. We have missed you. Now, how about F1? Can we get F1 on the Nintendo Switch? I would absolutely love that. Now, we did get a few other major titles. Hogwarts Legacy is on here. Civilization 7, Borderlands 4, Survival Kids, Enter the Dungeon 2, Star Seeker. Cyberpunk 2077 is coming. I'm kind of surprised to see that. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4, as you can see on screen here. Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming. And then another one that I thought was possible, but I didn't know if we were going to see. 2K is again back on the Nintendo Switch, and this time they are bringing back WWE 2K to the system, and along with NBA 2K. And I got to give them credit. I mean, I have a copy of WWE 2K18 because I wanted to see how terrible it was, and it's so god-awful. So I am hoping, beyond hope, that this is actually a decent release. If it runs like the PS4 Pro, it should be okay. It's got to be okay, right? Well, we got a montage of different games after this, including featuring... Now, we did get a montage of games after this, including games such as Star Wars Outlaws, which I think it's interesting that was kind of like cast aside. That tells me that the popularity of that game, or lack thereof, it's kind of earned. But Marvel Cosmic Invasion that we saw last week on the Nintendo Switch Direct is there, and something I'm going to order, whether on the Switch or the Switch 2, depending on when I can, I'm going to do it. As you can see playing behind me right now, too, there is a new GoldenEye, or 007. I associate video game Bond games with GoldenEye because that was the best Bond game ever. But we are getting a new Bond game, which should be very promising. Nintendo had 2 final surprises for us at the end of this Direct. First and foremost was a sequel to a very beloved game on the GameCube, Kirby Air Ride. This is now Kirby Air Riders. I have a copy. I don't know that I've ever played it. I know my coworker, I showed him this. He loves the original, and when he saw this, his reaction is, yeah, I'm buying a Switch 2 now. So that it definitely has its following. But the wait, just one more thing, that's what got me, and really, like, I'm a little bit bummed we're not getting a Mario game at launch. We're getting Mario Kart. We're not getting a Zelda game at launch. We are getting Metroid at launch or shortly thereafter. But we're getting a Donkey Kong game shortly after launch. And it's not a Donkey Kong Country game. It's a sequel of Donkey Kong 64. At least that's the way it looks to me. When this first came up, I'm like, what is this? Is this a new IP? I don't recognize these words. This almost looked like Ratchet and Clank. And then we saw him, and we got a glimpse of him in the first teaser trailer showing Mario Kart World. And here he comes in all of his fur-bound banana breath glory. DK, Donkey Kong. That's right, we are getting a new Donkey Kong game. Look at how awesome the new model of DK looks. It is just a great reimagining of the character. It reminds me, quite honestly, of Wreck-It Ralph. From his movements to the animation style to the way his body is built and everything. I am absolutely bananas over this version of Donkey Kong. And if I can get my hands on a Switch 2, this will be a day one purchase for me. This is called DK Bananza, as of course it had to be. Now, we got to talk about the pricing of the games and the systems a little bit here, because this is one of the things that people are really pissed off about. So, first and foremost, the Switch, the original one, was region-free. Switch Lite, region-free. Switch OLED, region-free. Indications are the Switch 2 may be region-locked. See, in the US, we're looking at $449.99 for just the system. With the system and a digital copy of Mario Kart World, $499. Not happy with those prices, I'll tell you that right now. I think I mentioned that earlier. The game prices are also all over the map. So looking here on screen, you can get, Kirby and the Forgotten Land Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, $79.99. Street Fighter 6, $59.99. Donkey Kong Bonanza US version, $69.99. Bravely Default, $39.99. Breath of the Wild, $69.99. The physical version of Mario Kart World, $79.99. Mario Party Jamboree plus Jamboree TV, $79.99. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, $79.99. Wow. Like, holy crap. That's not cheap. And yes, dollar for dollar, it's probably pretty similar to what you paid when the Switch came out back in 2017. Inflation is a real thing. But here's the other thing that I think Nintendo has lost sight of, is the fact that prices have gone up. People's buying power has not gone up at the same rate. The same dollar does not stretch as far as it used to. This is a luxury item. You don't need a new Nintendo Switch. You'd like one. They're fun. It's great to have. Nobody needs one. So pricing it the way that they did sucks. Especially when you look at the price for the Japanese version. If it's not region free, because looking at the region or the price of the Japanese version, I'm like, I may get one of those. When you convert yen to dollars, it's like $335. No brainer to import that sucker. Am I right? So we've got to do some research, find out what the situation with that is. I understand somewhat where this pricing is, and I don't gotta like it though. Donkey Kong Bonanza, $69.99. Okay, I mean that's put in PS5 category pricing, and I think that's kind of what they were going for too. Is if you look at like Ratchet and Clank, A Rift Apart, that's $69.99 for the standard. And I think $79.99 for the deluxe edition on there. So I get that, but I don't gotta like it. Overall, like coming out of the Wii U, going into the Nintendo Switch, I wasn't excited. After I saw the Switch, I still wasn't excited. I don't think I pre-ordered my original Switch until like a week before launch. I'm like, all right, I'll get one. And shortly after I started the channel here. I am more excited for the Switch 2 than I was about the Switch and the Switch Lite and the Switch OLED. I think there's a lot of interesting things that they are adding to this system that are great quality of life improvements. The fact that the Joy-Cons are larger, the fact that the buttons are bigger. It's still the same thickness though, so you shouldn't have a whole lot of hand strain. I think from a graphic fidelity side of things, the games look great. I'm truly hoping that what we saw, like in Mario Kart World, that was gameplay. I'm very excited to play that game with my kids. I'm hoping that I'll still be able to use my Switch Pro controller because I have a buttload of them. I won't be able to use the microphone. I don't care. I just want to be able to use my extra controllers. I want to be able to take advantage and, like I say, just have fun with my kids playing the Nintendo Switch 2. But these are just my opinions. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Do you plan on picking up a Switch 2? Is it even on your radar? Did it let you down? Are you staying pat with your original Switch, Switch Lite, or Switch OLED? Are you trading in your Nintendo Switch, Switch Lite, or Switch OLED for the Switch 2? Let me know down in the comments. Now, if you do want to check out some of the other videos we've done talking about, speculation on the Switch 2, or even our review of the original Nintendo Switch, one of the first videos that we did here on the channel, I'll have that link right here in the upper corner. Go ahead and check it out. I'm sure you're going to find something you like.